Welcome to the COAA podcast, devoted to the idea that a team of people led by a good owner, sharing best practices in a culture built on trust and respect, will complete better projects. I'm Howie Ferguson. I'm the executive director of COAA, the Construction Owners Association of America. And today we're talking with one of our inspirations for even starting this podcast, BJ Kraemer with MCFA and the Inspiring People and Places podcast. Before BJ introduces himself, though, it's appropriate for my co-pilot, Robin, to my Batman, introduces herself. Go ahead, Luce.
Hey, Howie. I'm Lucy Castro, and I am the Manager of Operations and Administration, and I am newly appointed executive producer for the COAA podcast. With that, we'll get started.
Well played. That was newly appointed by our guest today.
See, part of inspiring people is also elevating their roles.
That's right.
I'll take it where I can get it.
That's called an unfunded mandate in the federal government, by the way. BJ, if you would, tell us as short or as long as you want, kind of two things. One, just your personal professional journey, where you've been, what you've been doing, what you do now for a day job. And then, maybe as part two, kind of get into what inspired you to start Inspiring People and Places, the podcast.
Cool. Two big questions. All right. I think what's relevant to the COAA team is I'll start in the middle, actually, which is I was a resident engineer for the Corps of Engineers when I was on active duty, overseeing a $2 billion construction program during base realignment and closure. Captain in the Army, had never been on a construction site before, probably 80 professionals that were working under me, and I was baptized by fire, which is the Army way. You either lead and learn or you fail. And when you fail, you learn. So that's the middle. The beginning is I went to West Point, graduated from West Point, was in combat operations in Iraq doing route clearance as an engineer officer. So we were driving 5 miles an hour down the streets of Baghdad looking for IEDs and bad guys. Did that as a platoon leader, did that as an XO in company command, went to grad school at the what is now Missouri University of Science and Technology, mouthful, Missouri S&T. It was the University of Missouri-Rolla that became Missouri S&T. And then the Army Corps of Engineer assignment was essentially a utilization assignment after grad school. From there, I did it was 3-ish years on the BRAC program, again, multi-billion-dollar research and development campus, during base realignment and closure at Aberdeen Proving Ground, working between the Baltimore and Philadelphia District Corps of Engineers. And I really got an insight into what is the owner's role. And it really opened the door to this entire industry, which is, grew up, just outside Philadelphia, big union town. My dad had a bunch of buddies that were in the union, and I always thought of the blue collar side of the construction industry. But this really opened my eyes to all of the white collar roles that go on in and around the planning, programming, implementation, oversight, field engineering, negotiations, everything that goes into a project. And I think it's all relevant because in some ways I was, quote, a key leader on that project. In other ways, I was kind of an Army intern. I was a key leader because I was a green suiter wearing a uniform and could speak the language, but I really didn't know how a construction program worked. I knew what our role was, but I got to ask a lot of dumb questions to a lot of smart people. And as long as you listen, you learn. So it opened my eyes to a lot of the different dynamics between owner and contractor, owner and owner, construction manager, in the Army or Army Corps, call it construction reps, con reps, or inspectors. All the variety of roles and what you hit on with the COAA, the team that has to come together to execute a project. From there, I actually swung the bat at being an owner myself in the private sector as a real estate developer entrepreneur. I was flipping houses and small commercial properties in a neighborhood in Baltimore, Canton, for anybody listening from Baltimore, with a partner. But my wife and I had plans to move back to the Philadelphia area. I didn't want to put the roots down too deep. Had met MCFA while I was on active duty. They were supporting the installation during BRAC. Came here in 2012 as Director of Business Development and Strategy. Grew us into construction management and owner's rep, which is probably 60% of our work now. We support healthcare, transportation, defense, federal, some real estate development. So we represent a ton of different owners in the built environment. Came here in 2012, grew us into construction management, and in 2019 became the majority owner and president. We were 17 people at the time, and we are now, as of this week, just hit 58 people.
Wow.
So we've had some pretty awesome growth over the last 4 or 5 years. And again, I credit it, maybe a little bit to intentional vision of where we're trying to go, but it really is about building a team. So that's my story. What was the second question? I knew I was going to go too long.
No, it's not you, it's me. It's like a breakup. It's not you, it's me. No, I shouldn't have asked two large questions because the first one warranted its own. And I love that you went that deep, BJ, because I've heard some of that as a guest on your podcast, but some I hadn't. So love that. And thanks for your service. Lucy, and for everyone else listening, we artfully and gracefully, I think, got past the whole he's Army, I'm Navy thing. When I was his guest, and he was much classier than I would be. Plus,
we all bleed red, white, and blue.
That's right. So, BJ, the second question was especially given all of that pretty cool stuff, and especially in the last 4 years, that growth dealing with COVID, how and why did the Inspiring People and Places podcast come about?
All right. So it kind of a multifaceted thing, but I'll go with I got a chance to meet a lot of people and got mentored by a lot of people and have always had this curiosity about what makes people tick. And in the news, especially when I was with the Army Corps of Engineers, like you only hear about when a dam breaks that the Corps didn't get right, quote. You're not hearing the whole story, right? You're not hearing about the study that recommended the wall be higher, but Congress didn't fund the higher wall, and the Corps of Engineers gets blamed as the quote owner that got it wrong. So a lot of it about Inspiring People and Places was a play on words. One is to interview inspiring people and the projects that they've worked on or the places that they've built. And two is to inspire the people listening to go build and improve places that they're building. And it really is about education. I listen to podcasts in all kinds of different environments. Andrew Huberman, Tim Ferriss, just kind of the life learner curiosity that keeps you going. And I didn't see one that existed really in our industry. So I was trying to push kind of the concept and scratching my own itch, which is what the hell's going on out there in the world that's in our industry. And my hope is that it brings, what we read in E&R magazine maybe to life, because the people and the teams behind these projects are really what the business is about. It's not just brick and mortar. It's not just blueprints. It's about the relationships and people coming together to get shit done.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why we connected so quickly when I was your guest the first time on your podcast, because light came on for both. Like, hey, wait, that's what COAA is all about. We're all about it's the people. And so you're like, wow, there's an organization out there that has the same kind of people. So yeah, that's when the lights went off. All right, so thinking about your whole career. And again, BJ, you go back as far as you want or as recent as you want. When you get into situations, because it isn't always pleasant and it isn't always easy, and this is probably less to do with the podcast, more doing the day job or being back to being deployed and very much harm's way or whatever. When you're dealing with conflict, tension, stress, people that aren't being good people, do you have sort of a go-to for handling that, or does it depend on the situation? What do you lean on when it comes to handling tension, conflict, etc.?
I will go to the great Stephen Covey with Seek First to Understand. I think that I am as imperfect as any human being you're going to meet. So I'm not saying I bat 1,000 on this, but I think that actually plays to my strength is I probably do bat 85% on this in that I don't get ruffled easily and I try to maintain calm because when you react in an escalating way, it escalates. When you some people when they're dealing with bad news or they're frustrated, um, they're letting their emotion out when they're explaining the situation or when they're attacking or whatever. And people need to be able to do that because for whatever reason they're feeling that way. So I like to ask questions and just seek first to understand and then create space between me and the emotional reaction that I want to have. Now, 15% of the time, I let the emotional reaction go. And sometimes that's me having really good EQ and saying, like, this is a time to fire for effect. Sometimes it's because I'm just reacting. So, you know, that seek first, understand the 7 habits of highly effective people. That is, wisdom of the ages. And I think that is what serves me well. And I think you build a lot of credibility when you're not overreactive. Um, so that would be my go-to.
Yeah, love it. And I'm guessing, I'm not getting into your personal life, but I'm guessing you at least try to bat the same, at home, whether it's with kids or spouse or partner, whatever. Same thing.
I am more
Usually
imperfect at
escalates.
home.
Same.
It's easier to be
I,
imperfect at home, really. I mean, they love you. They can't throw you away, right? It feels
I
like sometimes.
I think it's also that like when I'll call it when you're on all of the time and you go to your safe space, and this goes the same for the kids, right? When the kids are being a pain in the ass or bratty or crying or whatever, they're in their safe space and they feel like they can be a little more emotional and not be so controlled. So I think the same goes for us. You're on all
There's
day at work, you go home and
there's
you're
actually studies to that. Yeah, that's why they act up the most with the favorite parent is because they feel safe,
yeah,
especially safe with that person. So makes
yeah.
total sense.
I've got to. Can I go on a sidetrack really quick? I'll try to be quick.
No,
This
because
is this is
Lucy and I
good.
and we on the COA staff never go on tangents. Yeah, go ahead.
I am doing marriage prep, and 14 years ago, I've been married 14 years this September, and the deacon tells me the story of. He said, you're in love and you're getting married, and this is just a fun time, and blah blah blah, and they're asking you questions to kind of challenge you. Have you thought about these things, these things, and I'm passing with flying colors. He says, "All right, guys, you're ready to get married, but I want to tell you, the real challenge happens when you have kids, and I'll tell you why. A woman has about 15,000 words in her a day, and a man has about 5,000. And when you have a baby and mom stays home with the baby, and you get home from the end of a hard day work, you've used 5,000 of your words, and your wife has not used any of her 15,000. And that is when marriages start getting challenged. Um, Something about the whole safe space at home made me think of that, so thought I'd share.
15,000 and 5,000. I'm gonna take that home tonight and share that. You're not wrong, and you're not being a chauvinist. It is what it is.
Yeah,
Let's see Lucy over there, like, mm-hmm. Yep. Um, yeah, that's good stuff. Hey, BJ, back to your company, your day job,
Yeah.
and that fairly impressive and incredible growth despite pandemic and all the other stuff. I know from talking to you and from what you just said about the importance of people, I I can guess slash know that culture is a big deal in your company. How do you reinforce that, exhibit that, teach that, share that, especially given the growth you've had? I've forgotten the numbers now, 19 to 57 or whatever. That's a
Yep.
lot of growth in a short time. And many companies, whether they're huge or small, they have a triple their staff. All of a sudden, the culture has changed. How have you guys and gals guarded against that
So I'll go kind
and
of
kept the culture healthy?
I'll go strategic, operational, and tactical. Strategic, I think, is by being very clear about the culture we want, and we guide that through core values. So setting the culture we want, which is entrepreneurial, customer oriented, fun is a core value at MCFA because we don't want people that are here trading time for money. We want to be able to have fun. We spend a lot of time doing the work, and fun also means we're passionate about the work that we do, and uh, curiosity because we like to think outside the box. So we're really intentional about talking about our core values and the culture that we're trying to have. Operationally, when you have 60-ish people on a bunch of different client sites, you have the opportunity for them to take on the client's culture instead of your culture. So I saw this as a problem early on when I was a part of the company. It's just like we couldn't communicate with everybody regularly, and you just get into the project work and that client site and whatever's going on there. So during the pandemic, actually, we started two things. One is a weekly email, uh, and it started out as me writing an email to our internal team that ended up being me writing an email to a 10,000 person client list, which was the precursor to the podcast. So we send out a weekly email to everybody, which is a little bit of, I think people need to be reminded more often than they need to be taught. It's just a quick shift of like, hey, look at the world a little more positively. What'd you learn this week type of thing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Two, I started talking to the company on a weekly basis by getting up in front of a whiteboard on Zoom and just talking about something that was relevant to the industry, teaching about core values, teaching about business development, teaching about project management, or why meeting minutes exist. That has now transferred into what we call MCFA University, 45 minutes, 4:30 to 5:15 every Tuesday. Wherever you are, you can dial in. Client site or family obligations can certainly trump it, but we probably get 80% participation on a weekly basis on that. Didn't want to make it mandatory because I didn't want it to feel like another burden or obligation. I wanted it to be something people looked forward to. And in that, we have team members present on technical issues, on project issues, on project successes, on kind of back office functions. Um, so that's operationally, and then tactically, leadership and culture is built in one-on-one interactions, and you need to really engage your HR process from recruitment to onboarding to reviews and reward to your core values. So you have to be talking about them on a one-on-one basis and what success looks like in each of those core value categories in everybody's individual job. Hey, this is what fun looks like when you're the marketing department or the
Mm-hmm.
proposal coordinator or the project engineer. You have to make it crystal clear of what good culture looks like from our standpoint, and then remind people in those reviews how we want to see it, and then reward them for it. um, so those would be the strategic, operational, and tactical way we address culture.
Spectacular. And I'm thinking if I'm listening to this, that regardless of where I sit in what role I serve in the project delivery, whether I'm an owner, whatever, uh, gosh, I heard four or five good ideas, I mean, a couple of which I may borrow for our team.
Yeah.
We I mean, seriously, that's good stuff and answers. I think you may have answered that question before, BJ. It seems like you were pretty prepared for that. Or you just think about it a lot, and that's why it's working.
I think about a lot of things a lot.
Maybe that's the other reason. The engineer thing.
The podcast may be a place for me, just like letting that. That's my outlet.
The outlet, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a deep.
We have to resort to taking showers and thinking about those things there, and talking to ourselves and having those fake conversations in the shower. You have an outlet. You have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Again, BJ, there's lots of ways you can go with this. No wrong answer. That's kind of how we roll, just like on yours. But that aside, and accounting for the fact that you're different clients and even different projects for the same client, it's going to vary. But all those caveats aside, talk a little bit about the way you folks, and it may be different from your client, measure success when it comes to projects. The obvious kind of big three, the holy triumvirate. You brought up deacon, so now I have religion on my mind, but is obviously, cost, schedule, scope / quality, delivering what was. But beyond that, there's other ways to measure success on projects. Some of our internal clients, when I was an owner, may not have realized that or appreciated that. But what about y'all? And again, if it varies, I get it. But there's more to life than just those three. What do you guys strive for?
Sure. So I always talk about this, like P&L in profit and loss it's an important part of the story because it's the lifeblood of a business, but it's not what people sign up for, right? Nobody really cares about P&L. You got to have the systems and the decision-making criteria that ensure that. That's the box, right? The actual results we're looking for are raving fan clients. I want clients that say, because MCFA was a part of this project, it went better. I had more fun. I enjoyed my career more on this project. And I also want to improve the organizations that we interacted with. So I actually want to leave a little bit of our culture on the organizations that we're interacting with. It's why I tell every employee in our company, everybody's a leader, because when you start thinking of yourself as a leader, all of a sudden you look at your role differently. I don't care if you're the lowest man on the totem pole or the project executive. On the owner side, the general contractor side, or the owner's rep side, everybody has the opportunity to lead. So one is raving fan clients that say, this project is more successful. Our organization is better situated for the future because MCFA was here. Second is, I look at our employees' career paths and I want them, they have to choose their own adventure, but I want them to be able to build a fulfilling career, and that every project that they get to be on is a stepping stone towards their future career. And fulfillment is a journey. Fulfillment isn't some destination. It's what you're doing every day. So I want people, the junior people, I want them to have a lot of different reps on a lot of different projects to find what is their thing. What were they uniquely gifted on this earth to do? And maybe it's in the built environment, maybe it's not. If it's in the built environment, I want to give them enough exposure to kind of different parts of the project life cycle and different types of projects so that they get reps and really see like, I really love this or that.
Lucy, I know you well enough to know that you're thinking, I see the bubble above your head. Dude, I could totally work with this guy. Don't get any ideas. You're not going anywhere. Okay. We love BJ, but he's not taking Lucy.
I mean, I try to get with who was our last guest, and you didn't like that either. Just holding me down. You're holding me down. I'm a peacock. Let me fly.
Oh, she flies, BJ. Don't worry. She flies.
That's great.
I got one more because we could talk. I could talk to you all afternoon, bro. And we got a little bit of we try to keep these relatively short, but I have one more I have to get in, BJ, if you're still good.
Absolutely.
Because y'all work for owners and represent owners a lot, I think it'd be kind of stupid to not ask you, you've seen before, you've heard me talk about when I was your guest, the COAA and the concept of a good owner, which is not a unicorn, that does actually exist.
Mhm.
From your perspective, through the prism of your whole professional experience and your current your company, what you guys do. Forget our definition. What makes for a good owner? Who are the clients that you want? You don't have to name them, but what are the characteristics of the clients that you say, man, I hope they have another project because we love working for them, and why?
I would say, look, you're attracted to what you put out in the world. So you want somebody that we vibe, right? I want a client that I vibe with, and here's a client I'm not going to vibe with. A client that says no matter what, I feel like I have to win, and the contractor has to lose. There are owners out there that have that mindset. I don't want that project. Nobody's going to have fun. Everybody's going to be stressed, and people are going to start cheating in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes that cheating is they're avoiding information sharing because they just don't want some crazy reaction.
Mm-hmm.
They're moving forward and kind of assuming that direction was given for the change order, even though direction wasn't given, but they're like, I'm not going to make this formal because I know that this is just going to turn into a battle. I'm going to try and just get the risk shifting mentality of our industry has to go. And look, the recent inflation has had huge impacts on our industry. Supply chain issues, cost overruns. But who owns that at the end of the day? You have to be able to say who owns the risk and how do we as a team share it, navigate it, mitigate it, manage it, insure against it. You have to come together and look at the project as a whole, as a team. So I want an owner that looks at everything as, hey, there's fair and reasonable profit. And look, the owner's rep, you're going to get your fee because your fee is predictable. Hey, there's fair and reasonable profit for general contractors. There's differing site conditions and there's stuff that wasn't you can't get anything for free. And anybody that thinks that they're winning by getting something for free is not somebody I want to interact with.
Love it. And in more words, which is fine, and more kind of candid words, that's kind of what we're getting at when we define the good owner, as being transparent and fair and timely and humble enough to know that, hey, we can do better. And BJ, I tell people all the time, and we talk about the COAA, that it's not necessarily, it's not at all actually something that we hand out to people and say, study this, and then you're gonna follow the COAA. It's how our members come to us. They already are good owners. They come to COA because they want to interact with other good owners and reinforce that, hey, what we're not perfect, but we're trying to get better. Our challenge
Totally.
is getting to the not good owners, because it's like a dog chasing its tail. Why would they come to COA? They got it all figured out. They're smarter than
Yeah.
everybody in the room, right?
That's
Duh.
right.
Duh.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Hey, any other parting words of wisdom? Whether it's more quotes from deacons or your personal life or thoughts on sports. What happened to your Eagles? Anything you
Oh,
want.
oh.
Sorry.
There is a quote. There's a quote because you brought up sports and I think it's leadership. There's a quote by Douglas MacArthur that we had to memorize at West Point. Upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that upon other fields on other days will bear the fruits of victory. And that was MacArthur's opinion of athletics and why every cadet needs to be an athlete is because you learn a lot on the fields of friendly strife. And I love the terminology friendly strife because we can all be kind of having camaraderie and competition and challenging each other and the whole rising tide raises all boats mentality is more positive than the divisive like it's me versus you. So again, I would say to everybody in the industry the same thing I say to our employees. Everybody, no matter where you sit, can lead, and it's about having a positive mindset of making an impact, adding value, and helping people come together to get things done.
Mic drop. It's pretty
I'm
good stuff.
saying. I'm like,
By the way, Lucy, did you know that the Army man tripped a little bit on the boat analogy there? The rising tide thing kind of threw him
Oh
off.
boy, leave it to the Navy guy to bring that up. He knows the water. He knows the
I
water.
saw he talked about batting and swinging later. I saw a pitch and I
That's
took
right.
a
There you
swing.
go. There you go.
All of this
BJ,
sports stuff.
all
Woo!
sport. Lucy's not a big sports person. BJ, love talking to you. Thank you for your time.
Same.
I know how busy you are. You're right. We do vibe, and I really hope we see you at COAA Connect this year.
This was awesome. Thanks for everything that you guys do, and keep it up. All right.